Brendan Addis, Clark Conservation District's Project Coordinator. This video is a tutorial on planting. I'm going to be going over 4 different types of planting that you may have gotten from a nursery or plants you've acquired from the Clark Conservation District's native plant sale. The 4 main ones that we'll discuss today are planting potted plants, plug or bulb material, root or rhizome plantings, and finally our bare root plants. Let's get started. The first one we're starting with today is our potted plant. When you remove your potted plant, check to make sure it hasn't become root bound. The roots inside the pot will end up growing either in a circle or creating a bit of a mat here. If we put it in the ground like that, it doesn't allow the plant to really anchor itself and find a new home. So we can break this material up. Gently massage it out. You can break some of the material away if you need to. You're not going to damage it without breaking the main roots. Now that we've broken up the root material, it's ready to go into the ground, we're going to dig our hole. It doesn't need to be much bigger than the space that we have here that it had been in the pot with. We're going to dig a small hole here for this one. Set our plant in. Keep the soil level the same spot it had been in the pot. Push the soil around. Push it down or tamp it down a little bit and give your plant just a little tug to make sure that it's fitted in there nicely. The next one we have is a plug, or if you were using bulb material, planting method would be similar. The nice thing about a plug is you don't get the same root binding that we did with the pot, so you don't have to worry about breaking it up as much. Maybe a little bit of material here at the very end, otherwise it's ready to go. The big trick with plugs or bulbs is using the right tool. In this case, I have a hand tool with a pick on the back here that I'm going to use. Some folks also use a dibble bar or a rock bar. You can make a hole in the ground just deep enough to set this plug in. That depth is important because what you don't want to do is create a bigger hole with an air pocket underneath. The air will end up killing the roots and it's going to affect the survivability of your plant. So in this case, close to the same size for me. I'm going to dig a little hole right there like that. Take the plug, set it in. I want to hold the top so that my plug doesn't go too deep below the surface. I've already got some growth on here and I don't want to bury it. Press the soil around. Remember to press and keep those air pockets out of there. And now that plug has been secured and my plant is going to start to grow from there. These can be one of the trickiest to know what to do with. It's the root or rhizome pieces. Do some research on the plant that you've ordered and look at the material after you get it. In this case, this rhizome is wanting to grow horizontally, so I'm just going to plant it under the surface a couple inches. Or if you have the space and material, put it in a pot, let it grow for a season, and then transplant it after you have some top growth. And our last one, classic bare root material. I've got a little Doug fir here. I'm going to find a new home for it. And an important step to always remember is to keep these roots moist and wet. If these get dried out before you plant them, it's really going to affect the survivability or even kill the plant material. For planting our bare root, we don't want to make a bigger hole than we need. We're going to use the envelope method. Take our spade, move it back and forth a couple times, open up a little space that we can fit these roots down in. Slide those roots in. Make sure they're pointing down. You want to keep roots from looping back up. We call that J-rooting, then those exposed roots will die. So now that we've got all the roots down in there where we want them, I snug it up to the corner of the envelope, hold my plant, and tamp the soil down, making sure I've got all those air pockets out of there, and give my plant a little tug to make sure it's snug in place. You want to be careful not to plant it too high, exposing some of the root material that would die, or planting it too low, which could cause rot here on the trunk. This one's looking good, and I've got myself a new Doug fir. Now that your plants are in the ground, you have years ahead of enjoying them. One thing to bear in mind is that for the first few seasons, you might not see much growth. A common saying, though, is that in year 1 they sleep, year 2 they creep, and year 3 they leap. What's meant by that is that some species in the first year are relatively dormant. In the second season, they're creeping with their root growth underground, and then in the third season is when they're really going to leap and grow up top. Another thing to bear in mind is that while native plants are well adapted to our environment with wet and cool winters and long dry summers, it's best to water your plant for that establishment of the first 2 years to give it a little extra edge and assure its survival. Remember to go to clarkcd.org for more information on planting or any of our other programs. Thank you for watching.